Cathay Pacific orders new aircraft. Let's find out more about it. Cathay Pacific has said that it intends to buy 32 Airbus A320 and A321neo planes to add to and improve its fleet. In a news release from August 10, 2023, the airline said that the buy would bring the number of new planes on order to 70. The carrier said that it expected to get the 32 narrow-body jets by the year 2029. Bloomberg said in a previous story that the airline based at Hong Kong International Airport, HKG, was interested in leasing 18 Airbus A321neo planes that were set to be delivered between 2025 and 2027. Cathay Pacific said that the 32 planes would be used by both Cathay Pacific and its low-cost partner, HK Express. The planes would mostly go to places on the Chinese mainland and elsewhere in Asia. But the airline didn't say whether it was renting these planes from a lessor or buying them outright to add to its fleet. CEO of the Cathay Group, Ronald Lam, said, "We're committed to investing in the long-term future of the group and the Hong Kong International Aviation Hub, which is expected to grow by a factor of 10 once the 3-runway system is up and running." When the airline first told people about its purchase, it did so on August 9, 2023, along with a separate statement of its results for the first half of the year. When asked about its plans at the time, Cathay Pacific said it planned to exercise the purchase rights to place an order for up to 32 Airbus A320neo and A321neo planes before September 30, 2023. These aircraft models have worked well for Cathay Pacific and HK Express, allowing us to strengthen the expansion of our Chinese mainland and regional network for our customers, Lam said. These models of planes have worked well for Cathay Pacific and HK Express. At the end of the first half of 2023, Cathay Pacific made a net profit of HKD 4.2 billion or $537.1 million on sales of HKD 43.5 billion or $5.5 billion. Patrick Healy, the chairman of the airline, said that the first 6 months of 2023 were good for the company as it worked to rebuild connectivity at the Hong Kong International Aviation Hub following the full reopening of borders in Hong Kong and on the Chinese mainland. This was said at the same time as the results were given out. The company's pilots are represented by a union called the Hong Kong Aircrew Officers Association, or HKAOA. On the same day, the HKAOA announced that it had started getting ready for a strike. Let's talk about some other news we think you should know about Cathay Pacific Airlines. Cathay Pacific Airlines, which is Hong Kong's main airline, has said that it will start selling 100,000 discounted economy class tickets to places all over the world on Thursday. Cathay Pacific Airways also said that it paid the Hong Kong government nearly HK $293 million or US $37.45 million in dividends on preferred shares bought during the pandemic. According to the company, the cheap tickets could be used to go to 34 different places between January and June of next year. Kaohsiung, Taiwan, Tokyo, Seoul, London, and Chicago are some of these places. They would be available starting Thursday at 2 p.m. and going through August 30th. When asked why cheap tickets were being offered, a spokesman for the airline said that the company sometimes ran deals as part of its ongoing efforts to offer more services. Also, the airline said on Wednesday that it had given the government returns worth HK $292.5 million on HK $19.5 billion in preference shares on Monday. After getting HK $1.5 billion at the end of June, which brought its payments up to date, this was the airline's second payment of this kind. The government bought the preference shares, which are a type of equity but have limited vote rights. This was done as part of a plan to recapitalize the company for HK $39 billion that was agreed upon in 2020. This was done because the company was having trouble staying in business because the travel industry as a whole was going down. Cathay said last week that it had made a net profit of HK $4.26 billion for the first half of 2023. This is after losing a total of HK $33.7 billion over the course of 3 years. Also, the company said that by the end of this year, it will have bought back 50% of the shares that had been given to the government in exchange for special treatment. According to what was said, the rest of the assets would be bought by the end of July 2024, depending on how well a proposed capital reduction works and how things are going in business at that point. The Cathay Group carried more than 2 million people in a single month for the first time since the epidemic started to spread at the start of the year 2020. This was done with the help of HK Express, a low-cost branch of the company. Lavinia Lau-Hosea, Cathay's chief customer and commercial officer, said July is the start of the traditional summer travel peak and we're very happy to see that demand has been high. July is the start of the traditional summer travel high season. When school break started in the middle of July, there was a big jump in demand for popular short-haul destinations in Asia. Cathay, which is based in Hong Kong, might be able to compete for the mainland Chinese travel market with the help of this plan. A year ago, the airline carried 219,746 passengers during the same period. Last month, they carried 1.74 million passengers, which is a rise of about 700%. The most current passenger load factor, which shows how well an airline fills its empty seats, was 89%. Lau said that the two companies were now close to being able to fly the same number of passengers as they did before the outbreak. The organization's plan is to bring that number up to 70% by the end of the year and to fully restore levels by the end of 2024. On the other hand, regional competitor Singapore Airlines Group said that it was on track to hit about 90% of its capacity before the epidemic by March of the next year. The airline company said last week that it will increase the number of flights to important areas starting in March 2019. This will bring more of its services back to where they were before the pandemic. In August of the next year, Singapore Airlines would go from having 4 trips to Hong Kong every day to having 6. She said that Cathay expected the high demand to continue for the rest of the month and that the company had added more seats on flights to North America, Europe, Japan, and Southeast Asia. Lau said that the number on the cargo market was likely to stay the same for the rest of the summer, but that it would start to rise at the end of the third quarter, which is usually the busiest time. The Asia Miles program run by Cathay Pacific has been changed, which means that the price of some tickets has gone up by about 30%. As part of the deal for the recapitalization, Cathay agreed to pay the government dividends every 6 months at an interest rate that would keep going up until all of the preference shares were redeemed. The interest rate on dividends was 3% for the first 3 years, 5% as of this August, and would go up to 7% in the next 12 months. An economist named Simon Lee Siopo, who's also an honorary fellow at the Asia Pacific Institute of Business at Chinese University, said that the interest rate on the preferred shares went up over time so that Cathay would buy them back as soon as possible. When it comes to headwinds, as more and more flights start running again, the price of plane tickets will go down and the return will go down. Also, costs of doing business are going up, Lee said. Airlines have said that the long wait in getting back to normal operations at the airport is partly due to the lack of staff at the airport. Industry leaders say that the first group of almost 2,900 foreign workers will start working at the airport at the earliest at the beginning of December. About 45% of the 6,300 foreign workers the aviation business was allowed to hire came from the 2,841 applications that were approved. More than half of these people worked as aircraft mechanics or techs, ramp services agents, or passenger service officers and agents. Thanks for watching this video.